Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really interesting stack of sources, focusing on one document called Graphite Note, Prescriptive Analytics for Enterprise Decision Science. And our mission here is to, well, deep dive into how this source frames something called prescriptive analytics.
Right.
It argues it's the essential next step for enterprise AI. And we want to see how it tries to differentiate itself from other, let's say, big names or approaches you might know.
Like predictive modeling, auto ML.
Yeah, exactly. And even large language models, which are everywhere now.
Exactly. This document, it really lays out a strategic message. It paints a picture of the market, basically, saying, traditional AI often give you insights, interesting stuff, but maybe stop short of giving businesses clear, actionable directions.
So it doesn't tell you what to do.
That's the core idea. And this is Graphite Note's take on where they fit in that landscape.
Okay, let's unpack that framing then. The source starts by contrasting prescriptive analytics with others already out there. What about, say, a company like DataRobot? How does the source compare them?
Well, the document acknowledges DataRobot is a strong player, right? Especially in democratizing ML development, MLOs.
Yeah, managing models in production.
Right, managing and monitoring. They even get mentioned in places like the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which rates vendors.
Sure.
But, and this is key according to the source, their main focus, their core, kind of stops at prediction.
Prediction.
Yeah. They're great at building models that tell you what might happen, but the document argues they don't inherently tell you the specific action you should take because of that prediction.
So, using their example, if a DataRobot model flags a customer as likely to churn, the model itself, as this source sees it, doesn't automatically say, okay, give this specific customer this discount right now.
Precisely. It provides the insight, the prediction, but figuring out the best action. That's often a separate step outside the core prediction engine.
Gotcha.
And the source makes a pretty similar point about traditional auto ML platforms, too.
Okay, right, like Google Cloud, Auto ML, maybe?
Yeah.
The whole idea there is making machine learning accessible, automating the model building.
Yes, exactly. They're excellent at automating the, let's say, the technical side of building models, making it easier for folks without deep data science backgrounds.
Which is valuable.
Absolutely. But again, the source argues their main value proposition is still centered on model creation, on prediction accuracy, not necessarily on generating the optimal business action that should follow from the prediction.
Which leads back to that problem the document highlights. Executives looking at the prediction and asking,
Okay, great insight. Now what?
now what do I actually do? Yeah.
That's the exact gap this document claims prescriptive analytics is designed to fill, directly answering that now what question.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting then. How does the source actually define prescriptive analytics? What's it doing differently?
So prescriptive, as they describe it here, is positioned as like the most advanced layer of analytics.
Beyond descriptive and predictive.
Right. It moves past just describing what happened or predicting what might happen to actually recommending specific actionable things you should do.
Okay, recommending actions.
Yes, and the key word here is optimize. It considers multiple factors, constraints, goals, variables to figure out the best possible decision or action.
Optimization. So back to the churn example, instead of just the risk score, it might recommend, give customer X a 15% discount on product Y this week.
Exactly, and it would ideally factor in the cost of that discount versus the potential value of keeping that customer.
Or for inventory, instead of just forecasting demand.
It could calculate the optimal order, quantity, and timing for each specific warehouse, considering lead times, storage costs, demand patterns, everything.
Got it. So the source paints this shift from prediction to prescription as a pretty fundamental leap.
Yeah, enabling companies to move from just reacting to insights to actually proactively executing optimized strategies. The focus is explicitly on delivering those next best actions.
Yeah, the document also brings up large language models, LLMs. Very timely. What's his perspective on them for actual enterprise decision-making?
This is a really crucial point they make. The document argues that while LLMs are, incredibly powerful for language tasks, understanding text, generating text,
Sure, we see that everywhere.
they have significant limitations when it comes to these specific data-driven enterprise decisions. Why? Because they're mostly trained on vast public data sets.
The internet, basically.
Right, which means they inherently lack access to deep domain knowledge A&D, crucially, your specific proprietary business data The context is missing.
Because my customer history, my supply chain specifics, my financial performance, that's unique to my business.
Yeah.
It's not usually in the public data that trains a general LLM.
Exactly. And the source adds another layer. LLMs, it argues, generally lack the structured analytical capability to optimize outcomes against specific business constraints and complex goals.
So they might generate plausible text or suggest some options.
But they aren't really designed to do the rigorous data crunching and optimization needed to pinpoint the single best action within your specific operational reality. They don't optimize in the same way.
Okay, so let's try and wrap up the source's core strategic message then. It sounds like the main pitch to executives is something like, look, others tell you what might happen.
We tell you what you should do next. Yes, directly hitting that need for action, for guidance.
And technically, the message is reinforced by saying something like,
Your own data, your proprietary data, holds the key to what you should do, not some generic AI trained on everybody else's stuff, positioning against LLMs there.
and the vision for the future they're selling is essentially,
The future of enterprise AI isn't just about prediction anymore. It's about decision science that gives you clear, optimized instructions.
which, from this document's perspective, obviously puts prescriptive analytics right at the center.
Absolutely. Implying that organizations only focus on prediction might be at a disadvantage going forward.
Okay, so we've unpacked how this source positions the market. It describes this shift, right, from just knowing what might happen prediction to knowing what you should do next prescription.
Using Graphite Note as the example, embodying that prescription capability.
And it really highlights what it sees as the limits of platforms focused purely on prediction, like Data Robot or AutoML.
Saying they often leave leaders asking that now what question. They create an action gap.
Right, and it specifically takes on large language models, too, arguing they lack the essential proprietary data context and the optimization power needed for real enterprise decisions, at least compared to prescriptive analytics.
Yeah, the core message, according to this source, is that direct contrast. Others predict. Graphite Note prescribes. Using your unique data for strategic, optimized, next best actions.
Which brings us to a final thought, based purely on this source, for you, the listener, to consider. If, and it's a big if based on this one document's argument, but if the ultimate destination for enterprise AI is this kind of decision science that provides clear, optimized actions, well, what does that imply for organizations whose primary AI investments are still focused only on predictive capabilities?
Yeah, what's the potential implication there? Something to definitely ponder as you process these insights.